The road to hell is paved with good intentions. This is a comment that somebody left in one of my videos that I put somewhere. I like this comment because I think this is Vancouver real estate in a nutshell. Everybody wants to believe that they are a good person, that they're doing the right thing. Nobody ever thinks that they're a bad person. And I'm not saying that anybody's a bad person, but a good example of this quote, I watch a lot of these Netflix documentaries of these serial killers, and it seems like all these guys who did all of these horrible things have some type of justification in their own mind for why they did it and why it's actually a good thing that they went and killed a bunch of people.
Ever since I killed those 3 Wall Street guys.
Okay, I'm waiting for the punchline.
You cannot joke about that.
Yeah, that's not funny.
It's just, it's been a rough few weeks, Murray.
Now, I'm not comparing what is happening in Vancouver real estate to being a serial killer, so please save me the comments and the I'm the terrible person type of rhetoric that is likely going to happen in these comment section. But what I am saying is that that's a good example for that quote. But basically what's been happening in Vancouver real estate for many years is that we come up with a solution to a problem that looks great on paper and it's well-intentioned, but the solution that we come up with every single time exacerbates the issue that it's trying to solve. Rent control, more tax, more rent control, more tax, banning Airbnb, all of these things have and will continue to make all these issues worse. There are so many people screaming from the rooftops, people that have been in the industry for 30 years, that sell homes, that do this every single day, screaming from the rooftops. Cash flow! These solutions are making it worse, yet we keep doing them. And then when you give a real solution to the problem, one that makes sense in its entirety, that doesn't make the problem worse, but it sounds bad on paper, it sounds bad, people don't want to hear it, they call you an immoral human being, and they just write it off. And in reality, a lot of the solutions that essentially sound bad, that are harder, that will take a longer time until we see the results from these solutions, it would be a win-win for everybody. But people don't want that. They want the short-term win that creates long-term problems for everybody else. I don't know how many times I've gone on video, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever platform it is, and I've explained why rent control doesn't work. And I've used basic supply and demand theory to explain my point on why it doesn't work. And nobody has ever come and been like, hey, I understand this is what you think happens when this happens. This is actually what happens. And they counter argue the points that I'm making to tell me why my understanding of supply and demand is incorrect. Nobody ever does that. Whenever I talk about how rent control doesn't work, they completely disregard my entire argument. They make points that are completely irrelevant, or they just give me a conclusion without actually explaining how they got to that conclusion. Like there's no work on it makes it worse for tenants, but there's no actual showing of their work to how they got there. And only recently now we have the new regulations about tenants getting 4 months notice and all these other things. And again, you have everybody in the industry screaming from the rooftops that this is going to make things worse. And of course, you have a whole bunch of people cheering it on like it's going to be good. And it's going to be, I've never been more sure about something in my life. This will be a lose-lose for everybody. It'll be a lose for the landlord and it'll be a lose for the tenant. Just give it 3-4 years. You can go back, you can watch this video. But the sad part is when all of this actually plays out and it ends up being worse for everybody, again, just like it always is, we're not actually going to recognize that that is what made it worse. Instead, we're going to blame probably landlords again and probably developers again. And we're going to add new restrictions on top of the pre-existing restrictions to make it even worse again is probably what we're going to do. Off topic, but I still see people complaining about foreign investors in my comments almost every day. Dude, foreign investors have been completely banned from buying in the country for 2 years. There has been a foreign investor tax since 2016. It has been almost a decade since foreign investors have been buying real estate in Vancouver. So in my opinion, this is how we ended up where we are in Canada right now. The majority of people, unfortunately, don't have a good understanding of supply and demand. And why would they? They don't spend their free time watching YouTube videos learning about the finance world. They typically consume entertainment content and things of that nature.
There's no punchline. It's not a joke.
The result is that our government can propose regulations and taxes to buy votes, and they will pass because the majority of us don't understand how these regulations and taxes affect the supply and demand dynamics within our marketplace. A lot of these taxes and regulations also look really good on paper. It's like more tax, that means less investors, that means home prices go down. But because people don't understand supply and demand, they can only see one or two steps after that regulation. They also don't see, okay, like more taxes, that means less investors, home prices go down, but it also means less rent supply, which means rent goes up, which means eventually home prices will have to go up because investment will seem attractive for investors again because the cap rates will go up when the prices are lower and the rents rise. And then eventually home prices will go up and rents will be higher and there will be less rental supply. They can't see the 4 or 5 steps in after the implementation of these regulations and taxes because they don't do the research to understand how supply and demand actually works. Then after the problem that happens 6 steps down over here, which is high rents and higher prices, like it always is, then they can implement a new regulation or a new tax to solve this problem. And then the cycle repeats itself. The tax restricts supply, which pushes up prices and rents, increase prices and rents again, a problem. Media blames something else. The solution will then be, again, a new tax or regulation to stop whatever the media is blaming at that time. And the perpetual cycle keeps repeating. And this is the unfortunate solution, in my opinion, that everybody gets mad at me for saying. If we want to fix Vancouver real estate, what should have happened, and it may be too late now, so government needs to stop spending so much money and devaluing our currency. And we need to leave everything alone and let the free market decide what the prices of homes and rents are. That's it. All of these well-intentioned regulations, taxes that synthetically mess around with how supply and demand naturally works within our market will always make it worse because it's not naturally how the economy functions. And anytime you synthetically mess around with something that's just naturally occurring, there's always going to be a worse side effect down the road. Just like if you do anything synthetic to your body, Botox, steroids, whatever the case is, it usually makes your health worse later on in life. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, like this video. I'm that 𝐎𝐒𝐄𝐒. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.